it's so Katie. It's funny that our first interaction in person was you asking Chris a question and me answering the question and not Chris. So I'm not going to ask you what you thought of me at the time, seeing as the question was directed at him and not me. But,
well, to be honest, I because you answered it, I just felt like you were, just a very helpful person. So you were helping Chris in answering the question.
I like that angle. We're going to run with that.
Of course.
Very cool. Well, Katie, it's exciting to have you on, and I've had a lot of fun not only getting your book and reading your book with my grandson Theo, but following you and following your new podcast and the culture and the story that you've created and continue to create. In addition to watching all of your other work, not just as an optometrist, but your work with the in California with the politically trying to move our profession forward and whatnot. So excited to have you on here, and thanks for making time. You're a busy person.
Well, it's an honor for me to be on your podcast, and so I will always make time for you.
You're too kind. So for those who haven't met you yet, Katie, give us a brief intro of who you are.
Okay. Well, on another podcast, somebody had said, talk about myself in a nutshell. And I basically asked, well, this is going to be, can it be a very large nutshell?
It can be as big of a nutshell or small as you want.
Well, here we go. So I've been practicing for 30 years. I am a local LA girl. I was born and raised in LA, went to UCLA for undergrad, and then I went to SCCO for optometry. And after optometry, I did live in the San Bernardino County, in Chino Hills at one point. And then I was working in LA. But I was living in San Gabriel Valley, and so at the end of the day, I ended up, having my own practice back in the neighborhood that I grew up in, which is the San Gabriel Valley. So I came full circle, and I've been in the same location for 30 years now, and it's a wonderful, wonderful immigrant community. And, I always say it's a very diverse community. And a lot of times people might think, well, gee, if it's an immigrant community, how is it diverse? Well, people don't realize that, when I'm in an Asian community or a Hispanic community, the diversity of all the different countries that are making up those areas of our world, it's so beautiful. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 30 years, really staying in my own lane. And I've been using that as an analogy of like kind of driving and just listening to my own music and being in my own lane and just doing what I always felt like was Katie's style. Yep. And really Katie's style was just putting 100% of my heart into everything that I did in the practice. And after COVID, that's when things started to change for me, because it was hard. It was very, very hard during COVID in terms of running a small business. And at that time, I was newly a empty nester, and so it felt very isolated. And I also went through a divorce during 2020. And so tough. I guess that's where a lot of the introspection started, was because things were shifting so quickly, and I started losing sight of what my purpose was. I was always in my own lane, but then that lane started looking unfamiliar because of that isolation, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And then really in 2023, and I know other people might have heard this already, but the true turning point in my life was a conversation I had with my younger daughter. And she had chosen to leave her career as an engineer working for Raytheon Technologies. She was only 23 at that time. And she made a call to me and told me that God spoke to her in a dream and wanted her to do something bigger than herself, and which was a giving of herself to protecting our country. So in that phone call, she told me she was going to join the Marines. And so, that really shook me to the core, because at that time, I'm going to say I wasn't leaning towards any specific religion. I really did believe that there was a God. Yep. And I just, like I said, my alignment in faith with God right now, it was through that story with my daughter. Because I kept thinking, wow, for a 23-year-old to hear God so vividly and to have her change course in terms of her career, I thought to myself, it's like, I need to hear him as well. And what is it? And so that's when I realized I had a lot of noise in my life, started clearing out that noise, and started aligning myself to what my purpose is. And my purpose is serving my community. It's literally what I had already been doing for 30 years, but I started losing sight of it. And I think that's part of my platform now, is that I'm trying to share with other people within our industry, but I've realized it could be anyone outside of our industry, that it's the alignment of purpose that gives us clarity, and it brings back fulfillment into what we do. And so, that's where I am right now, is that I realize my patients are, they keep me going. I love seeing my patients. Yep. I do.
No, I love that. That's a lot to unpack. And,
I tried to do it in a nutshell.
You did in a nutshell. Okay, and so we may have actually met a long time ago. So I didn't realize you went to SCCO. My dad went to SCCO. Oh, and okay. He graduated in 89, I believe. So my grandpa was the chairman of the board. So as I was born in Westchester, which is a suburb of LA, and so I grew up running around that campus as a little kid. Yeah. Until Dad graduated, and I was their test dummy and the practice case, and they would get me an ice cream or a new mechanical pencil if I was good. I remember going to the little store as a kid down at SCCO and getting the pencil. But depending on when you were there and when I was there, we may have run across each other. Or I may have run across you, and you just rolled your eyes at some dumb kid.
Yeah. Well, I think I shared with you that, but I didn't think you would remember, but it was a very quick passing. But it was at the exchange last year through Vision Source.
The Vision Source, at the exchange. That was those are always fun, and we're getting ready for this year's, and so I hope to see you there. We did announce the closing act on Saturday, so if you haven't checked your email yet, maybe we'll circle back. I'll get people holding on to hear that if they haven't heard yet. But
oh no, I haven't. I haven't.
So every it's a 35th anniversary, which is a big year for us. And every exchange is a big year, but this one's obviously one of the marquee ones, and so we're closing it out in style, and have a pretty big name that's going to help us close it out. We're excited about. But before then, lots of good education, lots of good stuff, where we really come together to chat, kind of like you and I had crossed paths last year at this. Yeah. So I already got my all the travel itinerary already lined up. Squared away. Good.
Yeah,
and your room booked and everything? Cool.
Yeah. I haven't really looked at the specific hotel, but I'm bringing my associate this year.
Oh, cool.
So I don't know. Hopefully you'll get to meet him. His name is Kenneth Cow, and he's currently the president of the San Gabriel Valley Optometric Association. So
awesome.
So he was at the House of Delegates and all that. So
nice. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, and I look forward to meeting him, and it's interesting. We're taking a little tangent, but it's interesting when we're seeing CE move online. We're seeing meetings kind of feel like they're struggling, maybe a little bit lighter to get people there. That the Vision Source Exchange, we're worried about selling out this year because just the amount of individuals who want to physically get together, who want to be in person, who want to engage. And it's not because they're getting credits, because at most you can only get 6 hours of continuing education credits over the 4 days that you're there. But that's not the point. The point is the camaraderie, the helpfulness, the engaging,
Yes.
learning those intangibles. So really us serving the community so that, you can go back home and others can go back home and continue to do exactly what you mentioned. I wrote this down. Just your whole point or purpose is serving the community, which is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And we can really extrapolate like what community means, right? Like for me, I start off mentioning that it's my practice, the patient base that I'm serving, right? And the San Gabriel Valley in California is huge. It's a huge community of cities that go along the corridor of the 10 freeway and the 60 freeway. And so, it's been very, very fulfilling. But what I'm going to say is that community just starts to extend when you realize that what you're doing actually starts traveling much farther out. And I am going to share this one little thing. So I've been hesitant whether or not to post this on LinkedIn, but I will now that I'm talking to you about it.
Yeah.
But, there's been this running joke, a backstory, for how I even got started with, writing children's books and all that. But, at first I wanted to write a memoir,
Okay.
like a leadership memoir. And so some of my close friends and family, they're like, who's going to buy your book? You're not famous. They literally said that. They're like, you're not famous. Who's going to buy a biography on Katie Chew when they don't even know who Katie Chew is, right?
Yep.
And so, and I thought to myself, well, it's not the numbers that I'm looking for. Like, I just wanted my story to be in print to kind of give validity to my existence, if that makes sense. That was how I was looking at it. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if nobody buys it. I don't have to be famous. I just want it to be a legacy in print for my grandchildren or great-grandchildren to say, hey, that's great-grandma, and that's all that really mattered. But going back to what I wanted to say was that I always thought to myself, well, at least I'm Costco famous. Like when I go to a local Costco, there'll be a patient. They'll be saying, Dr. Chew, is that you? And then I'll be like, oh, yes, this is me. You know what I mean? So I've been Costco famous. But now that with LinkedIn, it's like I have been going out to different groups, and somebody will recognize me from LinkedIn. They'll be like, oh, I follow you on your podcast. Oh, I just read one of your posts, and I'm like, oh my goodness. I've realized I'm beyond Costco now.
I like it. Beyond
I like
Costco.
it
That's fun. It's so I've got a couple of questions that I wanted to ask, and the first is you made the comment about clearing out the noise and in your life, and I'll be honest, I get very, very frustrated. The seldom I do go on to any of the Facebook groups, the social media groups that are optometry related, because it feels negative, and I see lots of burnout or tones about burnout and whatnot. Because I love what we do. I absolutely love what we do, and I think that really burnout is at the end of the day a choice, and that's a whole different rabbit hole to dive down. And I'm sure that comment is going to get me lots of negative text back, but a big portion of that is clearing out the noise. So walk us through to whatever level you're comfortable what you did to clear out that noise, because I think that quite often our lives all feel like a kindergarten classroom when you walk in and there's just chaos running all around and you can't figure out how the teacher can manage it all. And so it's whenever I feel that way, I know kind of what I do to try to quiet it. But what did you do to clear out and quiet that noise?
And I'm going to let you know, this is the first time somebody has asked me specifically in this manner. So, I am going to say that it didn't happen overnight. clearing out the noise.
Yeah.
I think it did take, and I am a huge proponent of therapy, but not everyone has to use therapy. But why I'm bringing up therapy was that through therapy, I was taught how to use specific tools to help me, shovel the noise out of my life, right? And so through those tools, I've learned that being gentle to myself and giving myself permission to feel and the emotions that I would sometimes feel, because I think one of the things too is that a lot of times we try not to feel emotions because we feel emotions are overwhelming. So if we have chaos going and all these little children running all around in this classroom, and then yet you also have these emotions coming up, it's like a lot of times we try to like stuff those emotions, right? But I was taught that, you still need to acknowledge those emotions and not to kind of stuff them away, because when you do that, then, we always hear about how it'll just explode later, right? So it's being gentle to yourself and giving yourself permission to acknowledge those emotions that are coming through in your life, right? And embrace them, because those emotions make up who you are, right? So I think that's first. And the second thing that helped me was, finding what my purpose is kept me aligned, and then realizing that the noise didn't matter anymore, because sometimes we can't stop the noise. The noise is external. The noise a lot of times is external. I mean, you can also have internal noise, but a lot of it's also external. And so, and I'll give you an example. Like, I realized I don't have to have 1,000 friends, right? That sometimes just a handful of friends that are so supportive of you and who you are, and that they're also good listeners. I think that's what you really need, is somebody to also be able to hear you, because I think that's what I've been doing all of my professional career, is that in the exam lane, I've been trained, and also because it's part of my personality, I've become such a good listener to be able to hear my patients. And so I think I needed that to be reciprocated in my personal life. And so by holding on to the few people that are great listeners in my life, that also helped me navigate through the noise. And
So I'm going to interrupt real quick, because two thoughts come to mind. One is that, and I can't remember for the life of me which one of my guests said this, but I've taken it, and they said the comparison is the thief of joy. And you made the comment, I don't need 100 friends, which to me, and I may be perceiving it differently than you intended, but I think that we look at how things should be, or how we think things should be, like I should have 100 friends. I should dress a certain way. It's a world full of shoulds, and then you end up shooting all over yourself. And so you're comparing reality to this ideal that may or may not be an accurate ideal. And so getting rid of the comparison and just whittling down to what we just talked about with Ben and Brianna on the book Nerds with Tribes, just who is your core group. And it could be 100 people that are all aligned with you. He argues in the book that 100 or 150 is about as many as can actually function well in that tribe, but it could be 3 to 4. Right? It doesn't need to be huge, and it's quality, not quantity. So it sounds like that that's kind of the path that you went down, and realized that it's the quality of the people around you that give you what you need, not just the sheer number and quantity.
Well, yes, and then in that strength that I was building within me, 2025 was also a year where I actually, had, how should I say it, exited from a few of my friendships. that I've had for a long time. And it was a purposeful decision on my part.
Good for you. Congratulations. We don't pause and celebrate that enough.
That was a bold move. That was a bold move. And basically, in one of these conversations that I had with the person at that time, it was another routine phone call that we have because we're friends, right?
Yeah.
But I realized that every phone call that we've ever had was the person venting about how life was so terrible. And me being a good listener and good friend, I would always listen. And so this one time, this last final time, I was sharing something joyful. But somehow this person still took what I was saying and somehow turned it into a negative. And that's when I said, I need to end this phone call because this is not going in the direction that I had intended it to go. And that was the last phone call.
Yeah. Well, good for you. There's lots of words that get put around that: boundaries, toxic relationships, and you can label it whatever you want. I hate labels, and I again, another soapbox I won't get on, but good for you. It's I find it very interesting that we won't put poison in our body. Hopefully, if you're willing to take lots of drugs and do lots of stuff, again, different discussion. But we are not going to put bad gasoline in our cars. We're not going to feed our children, dangerous substances. Yet we allow ourselves, through other senses, hearing and whatnot, to receive that type of poison. And it's one thing to be supportive; it's another just to constantly receive negative and negative and negative. So good for you for stopping that. And quite frankly, you can't grow if you don't get rid of something. One of the business optometry courses we talk about is called Ease, and the first thing on there is eliminate. You've got to get rid of something to make room for something else.
Well, yeah, it's basically like that metaphor or analogy of people talking about the plate being full. Well, you got to take something off the plate to pile something else on the plate. Otherwise, the whole thing will 100%. Just collapse, right? And so, or fall over. And but I appreciate that it was a bold move, and I am so glad that I did that for myself. I set up a boundary, and I followed through with it. You followed through. Yeah.
So for everybody listening, because I immediately, when you told that story, I thought of two different people. That one of them's family, so it'll be a little bit more difficult to pull that one off. Family's hard, but you can still go in moderation, right? It's kind of like my bourbons doesn't have to be every night. It can be just in moderation. And but for everybody listening who said, "Oh, I got to do that," but what is the other side of it? Scary, right? It feels finality. It feels so. Clearly, you didn't die in the process because you're here sharing the story with us. What was that experience like when you said, I have to do it? You took your bold move. What was the after effect of it? How do you feel now, right?
I am going to share this because this is so, it's such a vital part of this story, right? Because this happened in December of 2024. And remember, 2025 was such a great year for me. I mean, in terms of just me, my creativity, and just everything exploded, right? In such with such momentum. And so you would think that this call would have been so devastating emotionally, right? I felt so good. I actually had some introspection, right? I started, after I said that to her, I felt good. It was like relief because I didn't overthink it. See, in the past, I think when you overthink things, that's what holds you back. And so I took that and that feeling of I did it because it was so organic. It just came out so spontaneously, and there were no regrets. So I took that same energy and applied it to everything that I did in 2025. And so, it ignited something in me. Yeah.
I love that snowball effect. I'm
call it the
convinced that
ripple effect.
I'm sure somebody wrote a book about it somewhere. I just haven't found yet. And when we do, we'll do it on Book Nerds. But it's there's a momentum, a snowball effect, both good and bad, right? And it's much more easier to identify, I think, the negative. When you wake up out of bed, wake up in the morning and you can't find your shoe or slipper or whatever the case is. It starts that whole day being a negative day.
Yeah.
And it snowballs and it snowballs and it snowballs.
Yeah.
I believe the opposite is true. It's just harder to recognize where we do one thing right and then the next thing's good and the next is good and the next good. End up being a great day. We don't look back and say it started great because I woke up great. Kind of like on the negative side. But I think that when we are making positive choices, we start seeing that effect and we see the whole the positive outcome. And a lot of that is incorporated into your first book, right, Chewie's Bold Move, where it's scary to make that decision, but then it becomes easier to make good decisions and braver decisions and bolder decisions, and they they almost feel less bold because it feels easier to make that decision. It's just the hurdles seem a little bit shorter to get over because we have this positive momentum going with us.
Yeah, and I want to, since you brought up my first book, Chewie's Bold Move, Chewie is me, the little T-Rex with the pink chest, because that's my little representation of me being a breast cancer survivor. Yeah. But if you really look at each of the challenges that I put Chewie through, it's basically she leaned on the Chew crew, and that was one of the messages, is that I wanted children to understand that a lot of times, when we make these bold moves and courageous decisions, it's like we don't do it in isolation. Always remember that we have a village, right? We have, other dinos in that village to help us through. And so, yeah, that was part of the messaging, Yeah.
Yep. I love that. And I wish I had this book in front of me. My almost 2-year-old grandson, Theo, likes it. And so I believe the book is in a car somewhere. I looked this morning for it, couldn't find it.
If you want me to grab it, I can grab it.
Let's look at the picture, because it's a beautiful book.
Just for a second.
The Myopia Collective. Cooper Vision and the AOA have partnered in a groundbreaking initiative to change the way optometrists in the U.S. treat children with myopia. The purpose of the Myopia Collective is to rally the profession of optometry and its allies to interrupt the status quo and elevate the new standard of care for children with myopia. Every individual is encouraged to become a member of the collective. By joining, you commit to taking action to help slow the progression of myopia in children. You'll receive updates and information about the collective and its work in the fight against myopia, gain access to educational opportunities and resources offered by the collective, and hear from change agents, the ambassador optometrists selected to serve as advocates for community and policy change that facilitates the mission of the collective. Scan the QR code or click on the link in the show notes to join the collective today. In the past, our focus revolved around prescribing MacuHealth or MacuHealth Plus to patients at risk of macular degeneration, while also recommending it to collegiate and professional athletes for enhanced contrast sensitivity in sports performance. However, this year's introduction of the Life Meter has been a game changer. The Life Meter revealed a concerning truth. Many of my patients have alarmingly low skin carotenoid levels, indicating potential deficiencies in essential body tissues like the retina and brain. Supported by over 30 peer-reviewed publications, Life Meter's accuracy, consistency, and effectiveness has been demonstrated across 2,000 subjects with diverse backgrounds. With this newfound insight, I can now have meaningful conversations about carotenoid levels with all of my patients, even those who may seem outwardly healthy. To learn more about this empowering technology, feel free to contact your MacuHealth representative or click on the link in the show notes. Together, let's optimize patient care and elevate their well-being.
So these are the author's copies. It takes a while to get the author's copies through Amazon. So, but here it is.
Oh, I love it. Yep. Chewie's Bold Move and the Chew Crew.
There's me.
I like that.
Yeah, my in public, I rarely wear my glasses, but at home, I wear my glasses. And so
Yep.
my family and my friends, they know me with glasses on.
That's very cool. Yeah,
But
it's
yes.
a beautiful book. One of what I loved about it, because yes, it talks about needing to lean on your tribe, on your group, and your core group around you. But often you still have to be the one doing the work. You can't
Yes.
punt the work away, but you can have a support group, and then it's your job when they have to do it. So when Katie has to do something, I can't do it for her, but I can cheer her on, and I can be as supportive as possible. But ultimately, you have to do your work, and I have to do my work, and you have to overcome your challenges, and I have to overcome my challenges. But we don't have to do it alone. And I think that's a missed concept with a lot of today's youth, because of the comparison, because they look and spend so much time on all the different socials. But knowing that, one, you got to do the work, but again, you don't have to do it alone. I think you capture that beautifully with Chewie and crew.
And just so you know, because I love sharing the backstory behind a lot of this creativity, there are songs that are created with each of the books, and there's a reason for everything that I do. And a lot of times, there's no, red arrows pointing to these reasons unless I'm sharing it like this, right? And so I can't read like normal. I think I might have shared it with the book nerds. It's hard for me to read a book, and so that's why I incorporated the music, because the music itself is telling the story. And so if a child is hard, it's hard for them to comprehend in print, then I have the songs to kind of reinforce the story or the concepts that I'm trying to message. So that's one of the reasons why I have the songs. And one of the last note I'm going to make on the songs is that every book that I launch, there's one lullaby that's attached to each of the books. And I am going to share this. I was abused as a child, and by the hands of my mother, and a lot of the terror that came was when I was asleep, and I would be woken up in the middle of my sleep, and and the abuse would occur. And so my point is, the lullaby, I had to make sure that every book had a lullaby, because that was my way of showing children that when you sleep, you should be able to sleep with love and peace. And so, yeah, I'm going to get emotional here, but yes.
No,
that's why. Yeah, but people don't know that, unless I share it like this. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the reason why there's a lullaby always.
So the
Yeah.
reason's beautiful. I thank you for sharing that. I know it's not easy.
No, it's not easy. But
But the reason's beautiful, and it's funny. My 14-year-old last night came into bed with us in the middle of the night because she had a nightmare, and not being able to sleep and having sleep be a safe space, a comforting space is scary, and having the lullabies, having something to turn to help make it the place it needs to make, and is super important. And you giving that to them and to us is even more.
Yeah, and sorry,
important.
I'm getting teary-eyed here.
No, it's okay.
No, I really do. I shared it with the book nerds too about this. Is that these stories? There's a lot of messaging, and they're meant for 4-year-olds to 6 to 8-year-olds. Around that group. But for the younger kids, it's like I wanted the caregiver, the parents, or the grandparents, or whoever that are reading these stories to them before bedtime, that these stories are going to soften their hearts, and that it'll remind them about the love that they have for their child, right? And so yeah, the lullaby is also to help soften them, because I don't know if you listen to them, but please listen to at least the first lullaby in Chewie's Bold Move. It's on Spotify, but
Okay. I was just going to ask where we find it. There in Spotify?
Yeah. It's actually, it's on Spotify. And
I'll put the link in the show notes for anybody who's listening right now.
It's going to soften your heart, Aaron. It's you can't stop.
Was that directed at me? Did my wife talk to you and say that I need some heart softening?
No,
Is that what that comes?
No.
I'm teasing.
My patients have told me that lullaby just soothes their soul. You got to listen to it. Some of my patients tell me that they listen to it in their car when they drive home from work. It is, it's a special one. It is a special one.
Oh, I like it. I can't wait to. So I will listen to it as soon as we are done, and I'll put the link in the show notes, both for that and for where they can buy the book.
Amazon.
Yep.
Amazon, or they can always go to, so if they go to my website, which is called chewonwhatmatters.com, everything is on the website. My podcast, if they missed episodes, if they want links to buy my books, or even all the musics, all the links are in there. So it's a one-stop place.
One stop. Well, I will put that in there because that's easy. And by the way, well done with the Chew and taking your last name and just applying it. That's that's good. That's very creative.
Tony Summer.
Yeah, Tony's great.
No, he's great. And so I met him on LinkedIn, and he goes, "That's my job. I do marketing." It's like, how did you even create this whole not empire, but just this whole ecosystem with Chew? And I have to say, I don't know really how it came about. It was just very organic, but I am going to give credit. If I'm going to give credit to anybody, it was God. Honestly, a lot of these, like Chew on this, Chew on what matters. Now I have Chew on that. That all came during my 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Those 2 hours of every morning is when I learned to, through my daughter, that I needed to find what time in the day is my head the clearest. I needed to identify the clearest mindset that I have, and I found that it was 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. without a doubt. And so that's when the noise is gone, and I listen with my heart as to what God is sharing with me. And so I lead with my heart. That's basically what I do now. And so my Chew on that, I started posting some things now on LinkedIn with Chew on that, and it's to lead people into my dream is to have a in-person living masterclass.
Oh.
And it's for our industry at first. That's my vision. But if it ends up growing outside of our industry, then that'll be even better. But my vision is that at the end of this year, I am going to have a living masterclass on a cruise ship for a very short period, where we, if it's going to be, I can see it being maximum 30 to 40 people, but we will be together doing activities together, and then we will have one day at sea where it will be workshops with a few keynote leaders from our industry helping us with the workshop. But it's more leadership retreat.
Okay.
Teaching.
I like that, and I like how big you think, and I like that you threw the cruise in there.
Yes. Yes, because I love water. I love water, and I had to bring that in. But so that's the project I'm working on right now.
Very cool. I can't wait to hear more about it as you continue to develop it. That's exciting.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm excited about it. I know it's going to happen. Yeah.
So, I had a note here that, by the way, this conversation, and like most conversations, never goes the way I think it's going to go. It always goes in a better direction. But one of the first notes that I had wrote down on a question to ask you when I listened to, when you were giving us your kind of your story in a nutshell, You use the word serving a lot, and I like to serve. I want to serve my community, and that was your purpose. And I wrote down a note to ask you what serving meant to you, and I didn't ask, and I'm glad I didn't, because I think in the going through our conversation, you demonstrated what serving means to you, and you very clearly articulated how you identify needs and help find needs, and where you have the passion and you go through. So I'm glad I didn't ask that, but I do want to formally ask if you want to add anything more to what serving means when you say serving your community, serving those who consume your content, read the books, and listen to the stories, and children, parents. So when you use that word, what does it mean to Katie?
Well, the word serving right now, since 2023 to now, holds a completely different meaning. I would have to say that serving is in the context of my faith. I know that people also know me as a speaker, right? So through my speaking engagements, I travel a lot across the U.S. And henceforth, I started the Chuber Tales. I don't know if you follow that on LinkedIn, but those are my little side stories of my.
Yep, I like those.
My Uber rides. What I've realized is that every time when I do one of those travels, right, it ends up being a fellowship. It's a fellowship with my attendees and the people who invited me, meaning that I go there to serve a purpose of what I needed to do, right? There's a function of that I needed to do, but afterwards, after when I do my presentation, there's always a fellowship afterwards, and I realize that's part of me serving, and it's so wonderful. And also, I see my patients. They are the ones that have given back to me in so many ways. I don't have to mention my faith, but through my mannerisms, my behavior, my I don't know what it is, but my patients are the ones that are bringing up God to me, because I will never bring it up first. You know what I mean? I have to let it be something organic, but they can tell. And so then it ends up being a beautiful fellowship in the exam room. And so that's how I see serving now, is part of my faith.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep. So, no, I like it. That's very well put. And I'm a believer in not just everybody needs everybody needs faith, but not necessarily in an organized faith. And I think there's lots of different faiths, right? And so anybody who's listening who says, I'm fully religious, awesome, or religion isn't for me. Well, I think religion's a broad term, and if religion for you is family time, taking hikes out in the mountains, or community projects, right? There's a bigger purpose that connects us all. I think that I just don't want anybody listening thinking that there's one path of faith. I think faith is looking at bigger than you.
Okay, well, I'm gonna let you know about this. I am not part of any church. I don't have an organized. How should I say it? I don't have an organized religion, if that makes sense. So everything that I'm talking to you is based on emotions and feelings and actions. But I don't. And I'm going to be very honest with you. It's like I can't. It's difficult for me to read. So have I read through the Bible? I know what. So I have friends that help me that will send me passages that I can do, right?
Yep.
But have I read the Bible? No, I'm going to say no. All right. Yep. One day, perhaps, but I think faith can come in so many different forms, and the way you practice it. And literally, before me mentioning God right now, I and I want the listeners to know this. it's like before I was always talking about the universe and aligning energy.
Yep.
And I still believe in all that. You know what I mean? Because it is a way of aligning is when you do one good thing, it leads to more good things. And it's all about aligning positive energy. And so, yeah, I'm just replacing it now with faith and, you know.
Yep. Yep. No, that's my point exactly. It's all connected, whether you call it energy or whether you put a name on it. I will say I have read the Bible both in English and in Spanish. There's some fantastic parts and some other parts that are just a little monotonous when you get family histories for pages on end. I think it's less about the textual concepts and more about the inspiration that you pull. And you can find that in religious texts. You can find it in good text, which is one of the reasons why we did Book Nerds. Not that I'm comparing any of those books with the Bible, but I think that reading and as we've talked about on Book Nerds, reading just doesn't mean sitting and reading. It can be listening to audiobooks, which is how I consume about half of my books. Blinkist is a great app that gives you abbreviated versions of the books. Frequently I'll listen to the Blinkist version before I read the book, so I kind of know what I'm going into and what to look for and see the pieces. So there's lots of different ways of reading, in air quotes. But I think that learning from others, anybody who's taken the time to, as you have, to take your ideas, organize them in a way to put it to paper so that the story gets communicated the way that you've got it both in your head and in your heart, deserves to be read, because that's not an easy task. Even again, air quotes, simple children's book, you don't sit down and bust that out in a night. That's an entire process, where I'm sure you got beat up pretty good, or felt like you were, when somebody else was making comments on your baby, because you have this Chewie's Bold Move story in your mind. But being able to be vulnerable enough to share your story, to get critiqued on your story, and then share your story with the world, whoever does that deserves to have eyes on that content, because it only helps us.
Yeah. But again, I feel like that's part of the noise that I've tried to just ignore and just continue along. How should I say it? I still started off by saying that I've always been in my own lane, and but I think right now it's like, I'm willing to go into different lanes, but I am still very focused in being in my lane, and so I think that's the alignment. So,
well, I love it. Well, Katie, thank you very much for making time to join me, and thank you really for being authentically you.
Thank you.
That's the one thing that Chris and I talk about when we do these is that we don't want to be scripted. We want to make sure that we have real stories with real people, because I think that's where real connections come from.
100%.
I said real a lot right there, but I appreciate you being authentically you. I appreciate you sharing some things that that weren't easy, but together it's by hearing that and seeing what you've done with that, has motivated me, and I'm sure others. So I will put the link to your Chew on What Matters website in the show notes, so that anybody listening can go look more. I'm definitely going to download or add the Spotify playlist to my Spotify app, so that'll be our new nightly routine whenever we get lucky enough for Theo to spend the night.
Yeah, and I'm going to wait for your comment on that lullaby after you listen to it.
Yep, like I said, as soon as we're done on this, I'm going to go download it and listen to it. So you'll be getting a message from me.
Okay.
So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you at the Vision Source Exchange, and ending with kicking our heels up, listening to some Darius Rucker.
Okay.
So whether you know him as Hootie or Darius, it'll be a fun event all the way through.
All right. Well, it was my pleasure to be on your show, and so have a great day.